There you go. Everything's going to be all right.
I can't thank you enough. Also, my boyfriend's your biggest fan.
This should be no surprise to anyone. Spider-Man 2 is another political woke disaster, and it's something I could expect, but I was hoping it wouldn't be the case, especially after seeing a lot of the gameplay and the features. It looks like an amazing game, and playing it is entertaining, at least the mechanics, I would have to say. The mechanics are interesting. It engages you in different ways. I like some of the boss battles, but it gets overbearing when you have to deal with one political take after another that's being forced down your throat. And I see this as a sort of a Trojan horse game where the mechanics are there to engage you, but everything else, including the story, is too overbearing, too overly political, too politicized to such a way where you can't even take some of the characters seriously, at least their character models, their characterizations, because every bit of this game took a ounce of political thought to shape at least the character designs, the way they speak, their friends. Everything is based on race, politics, gender. So there's nothing that's truly based on at least the superhero incentive that we usually see in these sort of projects, where you're just there to save people, and even saving people is based on race, gender, politics. And even when you're trying to protect the city, you're chastising people at a gun club who are trying to protect themselves while you're throwing cars at villains. And it's absurd to see that take being made when you're a superhero skirting around the law, using weapons, using super technology to protect yourself in the city, but people in this game can't protect themselves with guns, legal guns that they own. And they kind of have this politics overbearing each side and aspect of this game, where it just kind of gets frustrating even playing it, because it's just like, why am I even playing this? They're trying to lecture me constantly on their political ideas, and you have a feeling that this game is against you for the most part, and practically. And you see it in the murals they have in different parts of the city, different aspects of the city. I wouldn't say this is unrealistic to New York, because New York has this type of stuff everywhere. So I think it has that realism is there, but the way they're preaching it within the story itself, that's when it becomes annoying. I wouldn't be as frustrated if it was just something that was just a part of the aesthetic of New York, because yeah, New York has these rainbow flags of every single, at least gender, race thing. I don't know all of them, but Ukrainian flags, they have all those flags, and that makes sense to have it in New York City. But when you see it woven within the story, even the dialogue and the translations of different topics, I'm talking about people just talking in Spanish using different words that are considered racist to people that are Latin or Spanish, the particular Latinx, where they're using a phrasing that don't even exist in the Spanish language, and people are complaining about this. Spanish speaking individuals, where they're saying, what are the words they're using? They make no sense. These are not real words. But of course, it's part of the Latinx agenda, where they're trying to impose a language, at least these Ivy League educated people that don't speak Spanish and are English speaking. They're trying to impose this version of their language on people that reject it, and they're doing this forcefully through a video game. And that's where I have a problem with this game, where it's constantly politicizing everything, every aspect of this world, where you can't even take it seriously because of the absurdity of everything about it. The one I mentioned earlier, the gun club thing, is so absurd, where I'm playing a character that's throwing cars at people and is effectively a legal person taking out justice and crime in a city that's overrun with criminals, and you're chastising a person protecting themselves with a gun in a city where criminals run rampant. And it's weird to have that talking point there when this is a superhero game. And I think that absurdity stretches onward in the different aspects. Of course, you have missions where, of course, you're not always saving people from criminals, but you have these missions that are overly politicized, where you're getting gifts for someone's boyfriend. And I'm like, okay, I have no problem with seeing these people in this world. It is New York. But when it's just so overtly done, it just adds onto the pile of politicization that is inside the game, and it's unavoidable. Of course, we see this all gender bathrooms and stuff like that, which I wouldn't have a problem because it's New York. But then you have characters where you're playing as Miles Morales' deaf girlfriend, spray painting politics on different walls, graffiti or something like that. That's a part of a mission where I'm like, every single part of this game is calculated and politicized, where all your friends are some sort of special person that has a disability, or they're bisexual, or they have different gender preferences, and it's just so overbearing, where you just get frustrated with this. Playing the game in and of itself is like, this is not even a game anymore. It's just, I'm at a political seminar, I'm at an activist event, and I'm being taught something that I really just don't want to hear right now. And this seeps into even some of the action scenes, like this one with the Venom, where you see Spider-Man, he's arched in a weird position where I'm like, I know what you're doing there, where he has his back arched in such a way, and people were pointing this out. What is this? What is going on here? And I know this is an Easter egg for the people in Insomniac, because this is their incentive to kind of demasculinize Peter Parker in every way they can. And I think they did that with his character model, where he just doesn't even look like a man whenever I see him in the game. He's just not someone I would see as relatable, or someone I would want to actually play as. And I think that is a big difference from the Peter Parker we played in the first version. He's just not the same person. I think that is a frustrating thing to play in, where it just doesn't feel like you are even a man in this game. It just seems like it just kind of has an antagonistic point of view on anything that is overly masculine in the game. So I think that is a driving frustration for me. I had a overall bad reaction to some of the story arcs, because I don't think it's just that interesting. It's not really well laid out or calculated in a way, because I think they were just overly focused on just what politics we want to shove in here or there in this part of the game. And it goes back down to the ugly character models. Of course, Black Cat, she has different gender preferences, I'll just say that. So I think even her character model, I think it looks like the character model, but there's just a steep incentive of making a lot of these characters very ugly. And I think that is a problem, specifically where with Mary Jane, where you're just looking at her in different scenes, is whoa, because the graphics just don't look good on her. And just when they changed her face, she's supposed to be like some model. I'm like, this doesn't look like any model that I know of. It is kind of reflective of the team that is working at Insomniac 2, at least these character models and designs. So if you look at some of the people that are working on this game, yes, you understand why they're uglifying so much of the female characters in this game. And I think this is a symptom of anything working at Sony games now. We saw it happening with a bunch of other Sony games, where they kind of uglified or just changed the gender of different characters according to the people working on the game. And they missed the plot there, where they're not even focusing on bringing good gameplay mechanics. And I think that is a frustrating thing for a lot of people, specifically Spanish speaking people, where they're talking about what are they shoving into this game, at least political wise, where they're not even speaking Spanish anymore. They're speaking a different language they're trying to force on Spanish people. And that's just it's a kind of weird to see, where people are trying to really colonize the Spanish language now, or just Latin culture in of itself, people that have nothing to do with it. And you see this guy playing is, what are they talking about in Spanish? This is not even words we're hearing. And I think this is something reflected in most of the game so far, where you see it happening in the game industry as a whole, where a lot of these characters that are being pushed forward are defeminized. They're interested in multiple genders. They have no specific binary gender. And I think this is a trend that is not going to change, where we see this happening consistently throughout the industry. And another thing that kind of caught me off guard in the game is just some of the words they use. Keep hearing words like BIPOC. I'm like, what? Who even says this word? If anyone would say it, it would be New York. So I attribute that to somewhat realism, but it just doesn't feel real when people are talking in this game. It feels like someone is speaking a political script, and I think that is just to the detriment to the overall game, because it could have been a good game. I would say the gameplay is not 100% great. I think it gets monotonous, it gets boring after a while, but it could have been a great game if they had an improved story, and that's not the case. The story is kind of annoying when you play it, and I think that is a factor where I just don't even want to play this game anymore. And this is happening to all Sony exclusives too. too. It's happening with the new God of War game. I think it was annoying. Horizon Zero Dawn, Last of Us 2. There's a problem at Sony Studios, and I think it's only going to get worse because we see it happening with Spider-Man 2. Any other sequel that's coming out, I'm going to be suspicious of. The Wolverine game that's coming out with Insomniac, any Last of Us game, I'm going to be suspicious. I'm going to think twice before I buy it because I'm just tired of being lectured to. But this is Spider-Man 2. It's not a good game. Disappointing, but maybe you disagree with me. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.